right, welcome to the RAMS Agents Production Coaching Call. The goal of the call is to help you sell more homes by maximizing your repeat and referral closings by implementing the Referral Agent Mastery System into your practice. My name is Mike Cerrone, co-founder of RAMS Agents, and my co-host is Angela Newman, a master trainer of RAMS Agents. How are you doing today, Angela?
Good morning, everyone. I'm doing great. How are you?
Fantastic. Thank you so much for being here. I'm real excited. I'm going to share some information this morning. So we're going to do a kind of a mini learning session today. We had a request for somebody who wanted to see a listing presentation. So I'm going to share my listing presentation and at least some of the elements and give you kind of an idea there. So if that's what you want, you're in the right place. And we're going to go ahead and get started. Let's see, let's go ahead and let me get that opened up here. I'm going to try to go through this quickly. Oops, let me get this bigger here. I got to get better at this. Let's see. All right, we got a, whoop, well, I don't think it just disappeared. I don't think it opened up. Let's try that again. There we go. Do you guys see my screen? All right, cool. All right, so let me go ahead and do this. This is the listing presentation outline. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just kind of walk through this real quick. This, first of all, is just the overview of what you should have in a listing presentation, or at least what I have in mind. It actually starts before the presentation itself. There's a qualification questions. Let me hide this here. There's qualification questions you should ask when you first start talking to the seller. Now, I'll also, before I get into this too deep, I just want to clarify there's typically two types of listing presentations. One is to your friends and family. You don't really have to have a lot of organization there. You could totally blow it and they're probably going to still hire you, right? Just because they have trust in you. You've already got trust built. This presentation I'm going to show you, you can use with everybody, including friends and family, but it's really designed for people you don't know. So you go out and you meet people, they haven't met you, they don't have any relationship with you, you've only talked on the phone or it was referred to you or something, and you have to establish yourself as the authority and the expert and someone who can help and guide them through this process. So that's what we've got here. So there's a lot of material. Let's start walking through it. So you're going to have an initial conversation with them, and either by phone, well, typically by phone, but it could be other methods. You're going to want to have an intake form where you're finding out their motivation and timing. And I'm going to show you a copy of that here in a second. Next, you're going to have a pre-listing package that you send out to them before your meeting. And that can either be a full or partial listing package. That's usually the easiest way to go. That's the way I've done it. People might have a different format, but mine is I'm typically today going to send out my full listing package. I just want to get the information in their hands. Some trainers don't like that because they think that if they have all your stats and what your recommendation is on price and things like that, that the people might make a decision based on that and not even have you go over. My thought is that's great. If they're completely out of line in this market that's sliding and slowing down, that's great. Let somebody else be the first agent. I'll be the second agent. All right. So then I'm gonna get that in their hands before we meet as soon as I can, usually the day before or even earlier, so they have time to review it. That makes my listing presentation go much faster, by the way, if I can get them to review that before we meet. My listing package itself, here's what's going to be in it. And again, I'm going to show you samples in a second. It's going to have a cover sheet. It's going to have a seller summary. It's going to have my resume. It's going to have testimonials. It's going to have an action plan of how we're going to get this property sold. It's going to have any kind of risk reversal or guarantee. I have an easy exit listing. It's going to have the rate sheet that you charge. It's going to have the CMA, a full CMA that I pull out of the MLS, including all adjustments, charts, pricing, and advice. And by the way, I pulled this together at the last minute, just in the last 30 minutes. So I'm not going to have one for you because I can't show other people's information. But if you guys like this, I'll try to show you a full package by the next time we get together. You're going to have a CMA 1 page, which is where I spend most of my time. It's a summary page, and then a net sheet showing them all the facts and figures and how much they'd walk out of closing with. And then the listing agreement itself, I have a template, so it's very easy to fill in. And that template's already been filled in by the time I get to the appointment. It's pre-filled in with all the information. It's ready to sign the listing agreement as well as the disclosures. All right, so let's start walking through some of this information and show you examples. So we've got this seller intake form, and here's an example of it right here. Okay, and so this is just 1 page, quick. You can take some notes as you're talking to the folks over the phone. And I'm not going to read every single item in here. Again, my goal here today is just to give you some basic ideas of where to go. You can screenshot anything you want. But I just try to get all their basic information about the property and most importantly about the people. Okay, and I'm also going to bring this form with me to the appointment, by the way, and then this bottom part is I'm getting data on them as far as moving forward. So like, did I get a set of the keys, and did I set up a lockbox, etc. But up here at the top, I'm getting the seller, all their contact information. I'm finding out where they're moving to, when they want to be there, the reason for the move. These are the most important things that I need to get in this entire conversation. All the other details are important, but they mean nothing if I can't connect with them on what they're trying to do and what their goals are. All right. But this sheet is just to help me. Actually, I do use this in my presentation. I want to make sure I've got all my disclosures signed and everything else. But that's just kind of a big picture of what I'm using. I want to make sure I get their mortgage balance and their payoffs and what it is as we're moving forward. So that's what all these things are. As I'm setting up this appointment, I want to make sure that are they ready to list or not, and are all decision makers going to be there. You can decide if you want to go on a listing presentation without all the decision makers, but it's usually not a good idea because the one person will take in the information, they'll make the opinion, they'll tell the other, and the others, you'll never have an opportunity to talk with the other and make sure there's clarity on what you're trying to do. And most of the time, those listing presentations will not turn into a signed listing if you're going partial. Sometimes you have to do it, like if someone's deployed in the military across seas, or other situations arise where you have to make an exception. But if they're available, you want all decision makers to be there. All right, and then you got I make quick notes on the property itself as I'm walking through. I do a walk through the property at the very beginning, and I'm making quick notes on this sheet. So this sheet covers a lot of different items, but as far as the seller intake, the most important, again, is their motivation and timing. What are they trying to do? What are they trying to do? How can I help them achieve that? All right. So that is the qualification section. Then I'm going to have the pre-listing package. In my pre-listing package, some people, they just do a little marketing. They just say, hey, I'm a great person. Maybe they'll throw in some testimonials. And that's a good pre-listing package to kind of warm them up. I like to send the entire package. Here's the whole thing. In the old days, we mailed it. Today, I email it and I get it in their hands and they have it. Okay. I'm going to start walking through this. I've got most of the items here to show you. Let's go through. So I'm going to start with seller summary. All right, so I have a little cover sheet that comes right out of the MLS. In my MLS, I'm able to kind of piece together this whole package, and then I email it out directly from the MLS. And since that's where the CMA, that's where the CMA and the adjustments reside. And so I've been able to figure out how to pull that in. If you ever want to see that, let me know, and I'll show you that in the future. And then I just send it out from there. Let's go into the seller summary. I'd say this is probably one of the most important items that I've created. It just brings all the information into one place for the seller. And I tell them, hey, if you're in a hurry, just make sure you look at that seller summary sheet. All right. And this gives them all the data that they want. Instead of hiding it, we used to hide it in the presentation. I just bring it all to the front in one page. So before you sell a property, you need to know the answer to these. You need to know these answers. And you got your seller summary and you have the date. You've got, here's the key results for, and you have the seller's name and their address. And then the details inside, this is the front of the package. This is the second page. There's a cover sheet, and then this is it. All right, first thing we're going to talk about is the worth. How much is this thing? That's what they want to know. By the way, I'm answering all the questions they want to know. How much is this thing worth? How long is it going to take? And how much am I going to walk out of closing with? That's the three questions every seller wants to know. You should write that down. How much is my home worth? How long is this going to take to sell? How much am I walk out of closing with? That should be in your marketing. That should be in your presentation. That should be in everything you talk about with them on the phone. How much is this property worth? How long is it going to take to sell? And how much am I going to walk out of closing with? If you can answer those questions, you're done, right? They're going to hire you. And if you can't answer those questions, you're probably toast. They're probably not going to hire you. All right, so to answer the first question, how much is it worth? I just pull out some information. Today, we've got all these AVMs, these automated valuation models. They're right in my MLS. I'm assuming they're in yours. And so I say, hey, here's this automated item, and here's the average of what they say your property is worth, and here's the range. I also highlight it in yellow so it pops right out. Then I've done a full CMA where I've done my analysis as a human, and I go in there and do the same thing. I'm going to find out a range and an average of those values. And this property is a nice one because they were basically very similar. Sometimes they'll be out of alignment. I found a lot of these AVMs are way off today, and they have been in the past. So you definitely want to run your own numbers to make sure you don't walk in there and list the AVM, which is either way too high or way too low, and not looking great. So I give them both. I give them both numbers. Why do I give them both? Because they probably have seen their AVM on something like Zillow and the Zestimate or some other place where they've seen an AVM number. And if there is a discrepancy, I want to point it out right away. Hey, look, we got two different numbers popping up. Let me explain why we have that happening. All right, so we get the value of their property, and I'm always going to a range because who's going to pick the value of the property? Ding, ding, ding. Who would like to answer the question? Who's going to pick the listing price?
Always the seller.
Blake is correct. 100 points to Blake. That's right. The seller always picks the price. The seller always picks all the terms. They make all the decisions. I'm only here to advise. You need to have that belief as you're going into this if you want to have long-term success. If you pick the price that they list at and it doesn't sell at that price, they're going to hold it against you the entire time. And whenever it comes up that you want to adjust the price, they're going to say, but you said, and it's going to be a miserable experience, right? If it doesn't sell immediately. Or if they think if it does sell immediately, they're going to say, well, you picked too low of a price, right? Blah, 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 blah. So you make sure that they pick the price. Most important element, it's their house, they pick. We're going to guide them. They usually want to know your opinion. You're going to give them information. You're going to help show them information, and they get a pick, and they can pick whatever they want. But they have to pick the price. All right, next, this summary sheet, let's go into timing. How long will it take to sell? Well, we're just pulling that right out of the MLS, the number of days in the market. Used to be number of days on the market, DOM or DIM, whatever your MLS is showing. I'm going to go with the MLS only because that's all the data they're going to see, or probably what they've heard in your area. I give them the range of time, and I show them the actual average. And then this is what they really want to know. How much am I going to walk out of closing with? This is the net sheet. After all expenses, how much do you walk out of closing with? And I base it on the range. So in this one, it's pretty easy. The ranges are coming out very similar. It was basically 350 to 400. So I say that right here. We got a range of 350 to 400 on this property. And we've got an average net of X. And here's the range. Okay, so that's a net sheet. And I have a net sheet in my package, but this is the summary of it. And there they go. They know all the information in one page. One page, they know everything. Boom, boom, boom. I send this out to sellers. They usually say something like, wow, this is a great package. Thank you so much. Or, boy, there was a lot of information in there. And I don't know. They just seem to like the package. This is, I think, one of the main reasons is this. There's a lot of clarity. This is the very first page. Okay, very first page. If they don't read anything else, they know exactly what the three answers to the three questions they have right off the bat. Okay. Again, how much is my home worth? How long is it going to take to sell? And how much am I going to walk out of closing with? All right. Now let's go back to our notes. Now we're going to get into the rest of this. I have it all kind of grouped together. A resume, a testimonial, a 35-point action plan, the easy exit listing, risk reversal. It takes the risk off of them and it puts them back on you because they can get out of the agreement at any time. And that's one of their fears. And then we got home seller rate sheet. Remember, you do not know these people. They don't know you. They're afraid you're going to lock them into something. That's why that risk reversal is valuable. And then we've got the seller rate sheet. All right. Let me show you that. All right, so you got a resume, whatever your stats are, you're going to put them here and you're going to show what your background is. So I show my background, I show my I've changed this over the years. And right now it just kind of shows some of my stats. It shows my background, my education. In my case, I've got different phases of my career. So I want that to be clear what's going on for people because they're going to look me up and not find any stats because I haven't sold anything in 15 years. But I sold something long ago. And so I'm going to show them that. And I'm going to show them that what I've done in the meantime. And then I'm going to show them what I'm doing today. Okay, so for me, that's what I needed to set my resume up for. You can set your resume up any way you want. You can show your education, you can show your experience, you can show what you've done in real estate. You want it to be real estate heavy if you have anything. If you don't, go back and tell them when you worked at Burger King. I don't know, tell them whatever you want. You want to show them that you've been around, you've lived, and you've done some things. Okay, but they want to know who you are. Remember, these are two strangers. They don't know you. So you got to give them a quick background on who you are. I just do that in one page. Also, you'll notice I put my hours in here. I want to make sure they know my hours. I'm working Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. I'm getting that right out in the front. All right, so then I got some testimonials. I've had these from the past, some written testimonials. And then as you get them, you can add them up. You can find the ones you like and add them in. If you get really advanced, you'll put in testimonials that apply to this person, i.e. the kind of property they're trying to sell or the area they're trying to sell in. And so I give them some testimonials. All right, then we go into the 35-point action plan. And I just basically, here's kind of a trick. All the top agents, I've interviewed all these top agents over the years. I've seen a bajillions of their listing presentations. You know, we did the Listing Agent Summit. And we looked at 17 of the top agents' listing presentations around the country, people selling 100, 200, 300, 400, 500 homes a year. And the thing that you'll pick up on right away is they just tell the people what we all do. There's not going to be a lot of surprises here about what I do to get a home sold. So don't think there's some magic surprise. The difference between me or any other top agent and the average agent is I am going to state what I'm doing, and I'm going to show this person who sells a home once a year, excuse me, once a lifetime, or maybe a couple times a lifetime. I'm going to show them all the things I do to get a home sold so that they see all the work that's going into it, right? So you don't have to be fancy here. It's not like I'm going to fly a banner over their house. It's not like I'm going to put an ad in the Wall Street Journal for them or something. I'm just going to show them the basics, but I'm going to walk through and point out what all of it is. And so that's what it is. And by the way, I start right off with my philosophy, which we just talked about. The seller decides and Mike guides. The seller makes all major decisions and Mike shares advice and options. Okay, so I'm just going to walk them through. So we got the staging is the first part, preparing, and I start going through the items of what we're going to do to get that property staged and ready to go, right? Then stage 2 is market and marketing, and I'm going to walk through all the things we're going to do to market the property, okay? And then stage 3 is negotiation. Once we find a buyer, we're going to need to negotiate with them and walk through that stage. And stage 4 is verify. Right? Make sure that everybody's doing what they're supposed to be doing, all the way to the end, where I expect them to give me a testimonial, and I'm going to let them know that. Okay, so those are the 35 points. Went through that pretty quick. That's the summary. We'll go through the different items real fast. So the first part, they're going to interview agents. Then I want them to hire Mike, make the right decision. Then price the property. Then property condition report, then title check, then estimate the seller's net proceeds, then the timeline of how it's going to get sold, property preparation, staging, photos, yard signs, lock boxes, and showing service. I assume you all do the same thing. If not, you better start, right? All right, next we've got the marketing. We're going to put it out on the MLS. We've got internet syndication and IDX. Even though this has been around for almost 30 years, 25, 30 years, people don't understand this. You know, you put it out on the MLS, it's going to blast out to everywhere. Am I going to be on Zillow? You bet. We do a thing called syndication. Okay, it goes throughout syndication and it goes to IDX as well throughout everybody's websites on all the other companies. So I let them know that. And that way they don't get concerned that they're listing with company A versus company B. We're all going to get the information out there because your competitors will try to play a game here and say that it's only going to go out if you hire them. All right, new listing launch. I share how I'm going to get that done with a coming soon option, which I like. And then we've got the top agent notification. I'm going to let all the top agents know about their property coming to the market. Neighborhood notification, all their neighbors. Cross-market buyer notification, other buyers coming from other markets. We've got my network of buyers and notifying them. We got social media ads. They're coming through my brokerage. We got open houses. I let them know I don't do open houses. And I tell them why I don't do open houses. You may choose to do open houses, and you'll say why you do open houses. But I'm going to let them know right off the bat I don't do open houses. I just took a listing a little bit ago, and the seller called up and said, hey, when's the first open house? Even though I've already sent this to him. She said, when's the first open house? I said, I don't do open houses. She said, why not? I said, only works 2% of the time. NAR stat. Been that way for my entire career. I'd have to hold it open 50 times in order to find a buyer that actually buys your house. So I don't do them. I do other things that work better. And she said, oh, great. I didn't want to do an open house. I'm like, great. I'm not going to do them. So it works out perfect. Very rarely after selling about 1,000 properties has any seller ever said, oh, I absolutely want an open house. In fact, I can't even remember when that's happened. I've had sellers say they like open houses for various reasons, but again, very rare. All right, so then weekly seller report, I let them know I'm going to be communicating with them every week on a Tuesday. And then we got going to the negotiation. We got offer generation, offer negotiation, and contract pending. Then we got the verification stage. We've got the player management where I'm going to, I tell them I'm basically the orchestra leader. I'm the conductor, getting everybody in tune, getting them all to play together. And here are all the people that are running around that I have to organize and corral and make sure that things are going to go straight and get us to the finish line. Then we've got all these dates that have to be tracked, these dates, deadlines, and tasks that have to be completed. We've got title work, HOA documents if they have an HOA. We got property inspections and negotiations. We got appraisals that have to be ordered, reviewed, and negotiated. We've got loan approval, closing itself, where they're going to sign off on all the documents. And then again, I want them to give me a testimonial. So that's my 35-point action plan. I point out and highlight to them that their satisfaction is number one, and I want them to have 100% satisfaction with me. So if you don't like me, you can fire me. And I call it my easy exit listing agreement. This is what's called a risk reversal in marketing. You have guarantees and you have risk reversals. This is a risk reversal. They can fire me at any time. And then I've changed this over the years. Let's see, I believe now, I give them I can't remember what I do here. I think it's a 7-day. No. I think I have it in my listing agreement. But basically it says, hey, you got to give me a 7-day notice so that I can pick up my signs and my lock boxes and wrap everything up. There it is right there, 7 calendar days. And I'll go ahead and get this wrapped up. Okay. Have people done this? Yep. People have fired me over the years for easy exit listing agreement for a variety of reasons. They've changed their mind. They've lost confidence in me. That happens every once in a while, pretty rare. Well, why would you do this, Mike? Because I sign a lot more listings than I lose. This is usually their stumbling block, and I just say, hey, why don't we just get it signed tonight? Because, hey, you can fire me at any time. They're like, yeah, okay, let's go. Great. All right. Extremely rare for them to exercise this, but it's there. And by the way, they can do it anyway. Even if you have a written agreement, they can get out of it. Right? They can throw your sign in the street. They can throw your lockbox in the street. They can say, just get the hell out of here. They can tell all their neighbors they hate you. Instead, I just say, hey, if it's not working out, let's just end it. All right. What else? Let's see. Oh, my seller rate sheet. And again, before I go through the seller rate sheet, I just want everybody to know there's no standard commissions out there. What you charge and the neighbor charges and everybody else, you can charge anything you want. And that can be negotiated with the buyer. I'm just going to kind of show you how I set it up. This is for educational purposes only, but I want a sheet in here where they know how much I charge. I don't want that to be a surprise. I want them to know what my rates are. All right, so I just basically show, hey, what I'm going to receive on the seller side and what the buyer agent's going to receive on the buyer agent side. I do it by based how the buyer is going to come in. All right, so let me just go down the seller side. I charge a percentage. I charge a transaction fee on this to sell or represent the seller. And on the buy side, I don't know how the deal is going to come in. I give the seller a little bonus. If they bring in the buyer, there's no additional percentage charged. I will just handle the transaction and bring it to closing because I know it's extremely rare. Extremely rare. I'm trying to even think about if it's ever happened in my whole career, but it could. And FSBO's like this if you happen to be talking to someone who's a FSBO. Okay, that's where it comes from. If I bring in the buyer from my crew, I do it for this. I just tell them what it's going to be. And I also now with our new rules, I don't know what it's going to be. If another agent brings us a buyer, so that creates an unknown and I have to tell them, hey, it's unknown. If another agent brings us a buyer, they're going to negotiate that. Either the buyer's going to pay their agent or the buyer's going to ask you to pay their agent, or it's going to be some combination of the two. And we just don't know until it comes in. So that's kind of a new weird factor, but you got to let them know. You got to let the seller know what you know. Okay. Also point this out. I have a minimum fee that I'm going to charge. So if I'm doing a really small property, I can still represent them because I have a minimum fee that I'm going to get. Okay? You might want to consider that if you happen to end up working with people at very small price range now and again. That's that. All right, let's go back into our our review here. I don't have this for you right now today because I got to throw it together quick. And because it's a lot of, I have items I could show you, but that's personal information of other people. I don't want to show that. I got to black everything out. And I didn't have time to do that this morning. So I could show you later if you want what a full CMA looks like for me with all the adjustments and the charts and the pricing advice. I pull that right out of the MLS. And then I like to get their one-page summary. And that's where I focus a lot of my time on. So when I'm going through the listing presentation, this stuff that I just showed you, I go through it fast. I basically say, have you read this? And they say, yeah. I say, great, we're going to skip it then. Or I say, do you have any questions? And they say, usually no. I said, let's go to the what you want to see. And I go right down to the net sheet, excuse me, the CMA. And I fly through the full one and just say, hey, here's all the details I'm going to talk about, but let me get into the summary. And then I go into the one-page form and I show them what their neighbors are doing. And I say, hey, look at, here's your competition, your actives. They haven't sold yet. They're trying to get it sold. Here are the solds, the most important. These are the people who've already won the game. Let's focus on them. These are people that got cash in their pocket. Okay. And then if you, after we're going into a slower market, in my market at least, and maybe yours, I also will pop up and I will often add expireds and withdrawals to show them that people are losing in the game. This is a game and people are losing in the game and they don't want to be one of the people that loses in the game. And then I bring them back together. All right, then I'm going to show them a net sheet after we've done that. Remember, I've established a range. They're going to pick the price, but I help them with a range. And I say, based on the range, here's what you would walk out of closing with. And that's what this is. I have it already pre-designed. All I got to do is plug in their numbers and print it out. You should have yours pre-designed. And then it just calculates everything for them. So I can fill this out in a minute, just maybe 2 minutes. So the date, the homeowner's name, the address. We don't have a buyer yet, but I'll use this same form to show them when I get a contract. I'll show them this net sheet. Here's how much you're going to walk out of closing based on what this price is. I'm going to show them scenario 1, 2, and 3. That's my price range. So the low range, the high of the range, and the medium, the middle, right? So that's this right here, these prices. Okay. Then I'm going to walk through. We got to pay off their first mortgage. Got to pay off if there's a second mortgage. I got my broker's commission to me for the sell side. I got our transaction fee. Again, all your fees can be whatever you charge. I got property taxes. In my area, we pay property taxes in arrears, so they got to get paid out at the closing. They've got to be adjusted. You're going to do some kind of proration. We got title insurance. In my area, the seller usually pays for it. You just lieu whatever's in your area. I realize some other areas the buyer pays for it. Whatever's customary in your area, that's what you're going to put in here. Extended coverage, closer fee, how much and what it is and who's going to pay for it. In fact, I think that's low. But anyway, recording fees, they're going to record into the county record. And I go through this, by the way, line item by line item with the seller, because this is what they want to know. And I want any surprises at the closing. Release fees for the mortgage. If we have an HOA, how much they're charging. Oh my gosh, they're charging so many ridiculous fees today. It's insane and stupid. I can't believe it. But I have to show them what it is. So there's no surprises. Special assessments, if they have an HOA with special assessments. Seller concession, if they're going to offer a seller concession right off the bat. Very rare, but it could happen. Definitely though, by the end, remember I use the same form by the end before we're going to accept a contract from a buyer. And then miscellaneous, if we have the other miscellaneous fees. And then down here, I add other things, like they're going to get a property tax refund from the mortgage company, but it's going to be 30 days after close. I want them to know that, the approximate amount. It's kind of like a little bonus, a little special, little something special for them. I also have here, because of our new rules, I have to break out this buyer agent commission thing. So I want them to know about it, but I separate it. So if they bring the buyer, it's one thing. If I bring the buyer, it's another thing. And then if another agent brings a buyer, it's another thing. I have to spend time now on this, a lot of time explaining what it is and what it might be and how it might work, as far as if another agent brings a buyer and whether the seller has to pay any part of that, right? And then I've added this lately where I just say, well, this is what I think it's going to be. For a while, I was just saying unknown. And now I'm like, yeah, but this is probably what it's going to be. Whatever you think it's going to be in your market, okay, is what I recommend you put there. There are no standards. There are no traditionals. With that said, you can probably guess what you think it could be. And so you can share that with them. So, I mean, how are you, that's the weird thing about all these some of these rules is how are you supposed to advise the seller without guessing? So you got to guess at some point. Again, not legal advice. I'm not your broker. Go ask your broker, go ask for your attorney. And every state is different, as well as following federal guidelines. So anyway, now I just wanted you to see the format. I've got a format here. I've got a standard. I've got a way that I do this each and every time, so it's clear and easy for the seller to understand what's going to happen. And that's then the final thing is I get to the end, by the way. Let me do it this way. I get to the end and I say, okay, so your net proceeds is going to either be X, X, X. What do you think is the price you want to list at? Okay, because they probably already told me by now. And they say, well, Mike, I want to do this. You know, most people pick the middle, okay, on anything you offer them. And they're going to say, hey, I want to list at X. And I go, great. If you list at X, you're going to walk out of, well, in my example, this is kind of weird, $875. But whatever the number is, I say, you're going to walk out of closing with this amount of money. Will that work for you? And they say, yeah. I say, great. Are you ready to put me to work? They're like, great. So that's a little trial close. If they say, yeah, I'm done. By the way, sometimes they're already handing you the keys. That's fantastic. If they hand you the keys, don't say anything dumb. Just go get a sign because you're ready to go. They're ready to hire you. And then I'm going to go through the listing agreement itself, and I'm going to walk through it, and I'm going to hit all the highlights to make sure they know exactly what's in there. I'm going to ask them questions as we go if we have any clarification, what's included, what's excluded, etc. We're going to get down to the end. And again, I'm going to say, hey, are you ready to put me to work? And they say, yeah. I say, great. All you have to do is sign right there. Sign the listing agreement first. Then we pull up the disclosures. We walk through the disclosures, have them sign up on the disclosures. I ask them for a copy of the keys. I walk out of the house, and that's it. All right. So it wasn't a full presentation on listing presentation, but it gives you the basic ideas. And I just realized, well, we had quite a bit of time. Let me ask you this. Do y'all have any questions?
Would you be able to touch on maybe Bob Boland's approach?
Oh, wow. No, yeah, I mean, I can't even do my full approach here in this time frame, but maybe I'll try in the future, the Bob Bolin. He's got so what Tristan's asking about is there's a gentleman named Bob Bolin who's one of the greatest listers of all time. Worked up in the Midwest, and I think he still does. Um, I believe he sold 10,000 properties in his career, the majority of which are listings. And it was a second career. He'd already been a corporate um, uh, uh, hero, right? I mean, I believe he was even a CEO of a company. So really, really smart guy. And anyway, he came at the business as a second career, and he just went to town, listed hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of properties a year. And then he also did commercial. He worked his way into commercial as well. Anyway, Bob, his whole presentation is completely different than what I showed. I just showed you what's more like a traditional presentation and a formal presentation. Bob's is really unique because it's just 20 questions. He just sits down with the seller, asks him 20 questions. He gets the answers. And one of the last questions is, are you ready to hire me? And they say, yeah. And he says, great, we'll go to town. We'll get this started. And he has an entire process. But I don't have that ready to go, Tristan. No.
No, no sweat. It was because at the end you said, "Are you ready to put me to work?" And I was like, "Oh, that's Bob's line right there."
That's a Bob. That's right, Tristan. You've watched his interview, right? Did you ever
And
see his presentation? I don't think I revealed that the 20s.
no, but I was listening to that, and he was saying like as he got more seasoned and people kind of already knew who he was, why they were calling him, he would shorten the 20 questions even shorter. And like that was the most powerful question is, "Are you ready to put me to work?" And he'd be like, "Yeah." And then boom, he'd sign the agreement and be able to get things moving rather than being there for too long.
And that's true with all these presentations, Tristan. That's true with all of them. That goes all the way back to Mike Ferry. And Mike probably pulled it up from someone else. He's just been around so long, we attribute a lot to him, and he's a great guy. And in fact, Bob Bolin says that Mike Ferry's scripts are the best scripts in the entire industry. So Mike Bolin based a lot of what he does, Bob Bolin bases a lot of what he does on Mike Ferry's scripts. And Mike Ferry has the idea, at one point, he had this great idea that you could do an hour-long presentation if you needed to, and they didn't know you and they needed a lot of support to make the decision. He had like a 30-minute presentation where it's going along faster. He had a 10-minute presentation, and he had the 1-minute presentation, which was basically, it's a trial close at the beginning. Hey, you ready to hire me? Yeah, boom. Okay, great. Just sign here. So that'd be like, you're like, well, when would that happen? Well, friends, family, somebody who's in a hurry, right? A D personality. You've already sent them a pre-listing package. They've already read it. They're happy with everything they see. All you have to find out is the price, right? To put it in there, and boom, you're ready to go. So he had a variation, and Bob plays off of that as well, that he can really reduce his questions down if they're in alignment. And that's true of all of this. I don't think you might have picked up on, I pre-send all this so that if they just say, yeah, Mike, I'm happy with everything you do, like, great. Today I send everything. They may even know the price they want to list at, the whole 9 yards, how long they want to list for, inclusions, exclusions. I just have to ask them a couple questions to wrap it up. But usually you've got to go through more of a dog and pony show. Yeah.
Mike,
Good.
have you found the sending the entire presentation has really been advantageous, or it's either way?
For me, I like to send the entire presentation ahead of time. In the old days, I didn't. I would just kind of tease them with some marketing stuff of, I'm really a great person, can't wait to meet you. Some people will send like a cookie or a brownie or something and try to sweeten them up, literally, and not a bad idea. But I just send them the information. I send it all to them because I'm old. I don't want to waste time anymore. Okay. My first listing presentation took 4 hours. 4 hours, right? I didn't know what I was doing. I wasn't going to leave until I got it signed. This poor little old lady, she was so kind to me and let me stay there and talk to her for 4 hours. and I went through the entire presentation and all the comps and all the silly details and everything. And I listed it, and I listed it at a very strong fee for the time and for now. But 4 hours, just whew, yeah. Most of my presentations then got to be about an hour. And if you send everything, it could be even shorter, because then you can just talk about what they want to talk about. They have some kind of concern or issue, and you can just focus on that. As I progressed, more and more of my time is spent off the listing presentation. It's talking to them about their timing and motivation and how we can structure this to make it work for them. The more customized you can make your presentation, the better. Yevon just asked a question about Bob and his presentation number, and I can't remember where it's at off the top of my head. I'd have to look it up. Maybe I'll look it up and get it out to you. Maybe, well, Tristan's in his car. He can't look it up, but I'm pretty sure Bob Bolin is one I interviewed. I interviewed him in Success Calls. It's out there. Let me see if I can find it real fast.
Yeah, it's out there. It's out there.
If you go to mastermindagent.com, and let's see if we go Success Calls, and yeah, there he is, Bob Bolin. So, boy, that it's an old interview, but there it is. Let me show you. I've been doing those interviews a long time, people. See if I can share my screen to show you where it's at. All right, so there you go. It's right there. It's number 79. That was your question, Yevon. 79. So Bob Bolin was number 79. It was audio only. We did it over the phone. And man, he's phenomenal. What a great guy. What an amazing individual. And there you go. And we had even the little tease of the 4-minute listing presentation. By that time in his career, he sold 10,372 properties, whether they were residential or commercial, because he started moving into commercial. We're $4 billion worth. Anyway, just a great interview. Highly recommend that you listen to that. Sounds like Tristan's listened to it a couple times, yeah?
Yeah.
All right, cool. All right, any other questions on listing presentation?
So what do you take with you to the listing presentation? Do you take a printed out copy of all of this? Is it digital, and what do you leave with them? If you've already emailed it, do you leave anything with them?
That's a great question. And that's, of course, changing with time and technology. In the old days, I printed all this out, and I had it in a 3-ring, not a 3-ring binder, a comb binder. I had a comb binder machine with a nice plastic cover and stuff. And that's what we would send them for the pre-listing package. We'd have to make 2. That was the pre-listing package to get in their hands. And then I would bring one in case they lost it or didn't have it with them. And so then I just do it as a flip chart. As I'm going along, I turned it upside down to them, and I'm looking at it upside down, so you learn how to read upside down. And then in the back of that would be the agreement and the disclosures and everything, and then I'd have a separate sheet, and I'd have them sign off on it. I've now played with it in the new world, but not as much because of the digital thing. So I send it to them digitally. Sometimes now I'll just go there and I'll present to them digitally. So I got what you call tablet, where I can show it to them digitally. Quite honestly, I think I like the written one still. And it's probably just because I'm old and I'm familiar with it. And most of them do too. So like trying to get the digital signatures can be a real pain in the butt. And you can just get it written and then scan it in. But I've actually done them. I've forced myself to do it that way and through the digital process, and try to do it on my machine. And sometimes you have connections, sometimes you don't. Try to do it on their phone. And sometimes, like I was just thinking about one of the properties I listed in the spring, the property didn't have internet connection, and we were kind of not in a spotty zone for cell phone, but we finally got it signed. But I know it took me 15 minutes to get a signature, right? So I'm trying to walk through it. Whereas if I just had it in writing, it had just been done. So I'm not sure what I'll do moving forward. You can do either one though, whatever's most comfortable for you. I've just heard now from a lot of other agents, they've had the challenge of the digital. Do you guys do it digitally for your presentation and your signatures right there at the closing? Let me give you one other thing. I've talked to a lot of top agents over the years. What they will do is they'll give the presentation and they'll get the signatures after the fact, which is always risky for a stranger. For someone you know, it's not bad, but for a stranger, you know, another agent could pop in there and you're out. So in the meantime, while you're waiting to get them to sign. So it's usually best to get the signature while you're on the spot, while you're in the heat of the moment, if you will, and they really like you, before another agent can slide in there and take your $3 million listing or whatever you're working on, right? So I know I didn't answer your question. Just in the past, I've done it all in writing. Today, I've tried to do digital only, and I've tried to do a hybrid. What do you do, Angela? What do you do? You've done quite a few of these.
No, you actually answered it. My question. I do a digital slideshow presentation, and then I prefer to have a written listing agreement, but not do all of the paperwork at that time but I do have it handy just in case. So usually it's easier just to get the listing agreement signed and then say, I'm going to email you the rest of the paperwork and you can sign all that digitally.
It's grown so much. You know, when I was originally doing it, a listing agreement was like 3 pages. Now I think it's 20 pages. The seller's profit disclosure form, we were one of the first states to do it. It was a 1-page form. I remember so vividly because went from a regular sheet of paper to a legal sheet of paper, and we thought that was terrible. Now it's 10 pages. 10 pages. So in the old days, I would sit there and have them fill it out in front of me. Today, that could take a long, long time. So you might need to send the disclosures to them after the fact to get signed off on. And so I like your approach there, Angela, where you at least bring the listing agreement for them to sign. And then you can send the disclosures later. Right?
Yeah, and if they're old school, then you can just leave the rest of the paperwork, have a hard copy, leave it with them that they could mail back to you or scan in and send back to you. But most people can do digital stuff now.
Yeah, for sure. And the digital signing is pretty cool today. I've used that quite a bit and liked it a lot as you're progressing through the system. It definitely speeds things up. We used to have to drive over to people's houses to get documents signed, and man, the digital world is way better in that regard for sure. All right, the only thing I'll try to bring this back to is that all the things I've shown you don't matter. All the things I showed you don't matter if you don't have a connection, a human emotional connection with the seller. And the best way to get that connection is to ask them questions about what they're trying to do and get really deep into what are you wanting to do here? What is your goal and objective? Get clarity. I think I mentioned this before. Clarity on what their goals are. And to get that clarity, you usually have to get them talking. To get them talking, you ask questions. So what are you trying to do? Where do you want to move? When do you want to be there? Why do you want to be there? That's the key. Why? And the best way to find that out is to ask the opposite or reverse. What happens if you don't get there? What happens if this doesn't sell? What happens if you don't get this thing sold on time? You'll find out their true motivation. Because they may say, I don't care, doesn't matter. Well, now they really don't have a lot of motivation. And if you go for price reductions, it's going to be difficult. But if they say, Mike, if I don't get there by this date, I got this penalty. I could lose a job. I could lose my spouse. My kids won't be in school. They won't get their education. You know, if they've got some penalty problems, then you've got a motivated seller who's going to work with you to get this thing sold, which is what you need in a slower and declining market that we're moving into. So those are the things you're trying to look for. Okay? You got to get that emotional connection. And again, the best way to do that is to show them you understand their situation and what they're trying to do. Okay? And then the rest of this doesn't matter. You could have the fanciest presentation in the world, but if they don't connect with you, you don't connect with them, they don't like you, it's not going to matter. They're not going to hire you. But if you have where they like you and you have all this information and you have all the support, you're a powerhouse. You're going to win because you're going to win over the people they just like, and you're going to win over the people that just had stats.
Powerful stuff. Thanks, Mike.
You bet, Tristan. All right, we're about to wrap up. Any final questions on listing presentation?
I just want to say thank you. It's so cool, Mike. Thank you for bringing this topic. That's
Oh,
what
you
I asked
betcha.
last time. Yeah.
Yeah, but you bet. And I hope it was helpful. I know you were curious about it. And if you have any other questions, let me know and we'll try to get other information in as well. But you basically have kind of a format for creating your own. And that's the
Yeah.
other thing, by the way, is you want to create your own. You want to create based on what you actually are going to do to get this property sold. But now you see the elements of what should be in the present in this package that you give them, whether it's pre-package or the presentation itself.
And remind me, please, we should have access to this file, right? The little document, just all this
Yeah,
presentations.
I can get you a copy of it.
Mhm.
Yeah, I can get you a copy.
Nice.
Yeah, but just give me an email. Send me an email and we'll get you something.
Okay, cool. Thank you, Mike, again.
Yeah, email will remind me.
Mhm.
All
Nice.
right, cool. All right, everybody, let's wrap up the production call for today. Thank you for being here for that. Let's go into our huddle. Let's get the number one thing you did yesterday to move your business forward. Number one thing you're going to do today to move your business forward. Who would like to start?
I'll start. Number one thing yesterday was prospecting. Almost had 30 door knocks and made 2 new contacts. And number one thing today is again prospecting, door knocking. And today I want to hit at least 50 homes.
Tristan, that is so awesome. I am so proud of you for making the door knocks. I'm additionally proud of you because you just told me number one thing yesterday was prospecting. Number one thing today is prospecting. That is our number one highest dollar value productive activity. You know, we all get caught up in the weeds. I know you're negotiating contracts right now. I know you're negotiating buyer and seller contracts because of our conversations. I know specifically that that's happening for you today. You got one of each. And yet that's not what you said. You just said, I need to prospect. I need to meet new people. I need to keep filling the top of the funnel. I need to keep making connections and relationships with people so my business doesn't die in 90 days. So Tristan, very, very good. Very, very impressive report. Thank you. All right, who's next? Don't be shy.
We'll go ahead and go. So yesterday I have 2 interested parties to purchase a duplex that we have listed. So trying to set up an appointment with the tenant because it's occupied now on that. Today, my number one is to follow up with, I have another property that is up for lease, follow up with all those leads and try to set up appointments for those and then continue working on the sale appointments.
That's fantastic, Angela. Congratulations. You're right in the trenches. You're working with clients to help them make their dreams come true. Good job. Good job. That's fantastic. All right, good. Who's next?
I'll jump in. Yesterday, number one activity was we had a couple of showings to the same potential buyer of listing, the farm listing that I have. And yesterday was a fair amount of answering questions, trying to get details covered for them. And today will be a follow-up to see if we can, where we go from here. You know, where we go from here. I know they had a number of questions and a lot of things they were trying to work through.
Cool. Cool. Blake, good luck with that. I know you've been working on that property for a while. There have been a lot of ups and downs on that property and kinks, and you've been working through it, and you've learned a lot about real estate. I think that without going into too many details, the number one thing you've learned about real estate is it's not the real estate. It's the people, right? It's always the people. It always comes back to the people.
Very accurate. Very accurate.
Yeah. Cool. Blake, by the way, stick around after the call. I got a question I want to ask you just after we finish the call, if you have time. All right. Who's next?
I can go next. Yeah,
Go,
yesterday
Gavin.
like did a lot of maintenance, so like we got like 6 inspection for multifamily. I'm selling it's kind of next week, and I have appraisal on my another listing as well, and call past clients. So continue to do the same today, pretty much.
Hey, that's fantastic, Gavin. Congratulations. Good job on getting that contract together and pushing that forward. These are the maintenance activities that we all have to do in our business to move the business itself forward. Good job. Good job. All right. And by the way, if you ever leverage and get an assistant, that's what you would have them come in and do is this maintenance thing to move the business along. The thing you probably drop last is a listing presentation because it has so much skill involved. And then the other thing would be prospecting, meeting people, again, 2 high-skilled activities to keep feeding your business new clients. All right, good job, good job. So let's see, yesterday for myself, I made some reach out calls to this new group that I'm prospecting and testing out. And it was really interesting. I called a group of them over and over last week, and I came to the same group this week. And the same people who didn't answer last week didn't answer this week. So that's one thing. That's kind of interesting. People who don't answer the phone, they're never going to answer the phone. Kind of interesting. But I did get 5 new ones that came in over there. They kind of come out once a week in the way I'm doing my research. And 3 of them did answer the phone. So that was good. And one of them, the very first dial I made, it looks really good. They're going to be selling a property. So the first one's going to be selling a property, and I'm in communication with them and a follow-up and just sent them a bunch of information yesterday. Second one didn't want to have anything to do with me. And the third one had already sold the property. This list is just incredible. I can't believe these people that I found this little niche. And maybe again, someday I'll share that with you. But I'm still working it. I'm just telling you the early stages are just shocking, shockingly good. All right, and then today we'll be doing some more of that reach out, try to get a hold of a couple more of those people. And then, but today for me is seller reports. So that's a critical thing to try to reposition people to get their property sold. They've hired me to help them do that. And I have to, because I'm in a slow market, it's a much tougher job than it was before. Yeah. Before when the market's flying, everything's exciting because things are selling so fast. Now you got to have these tough conversations with sellers, the reason that they hired you to help them position properly and find that buyer. All right, so that's what I'm going to be working on today. Thank you everybody for being here. Fantastic to see you.
Mike, right, real quick, sorry.
Sure, Tristan, go for it.
Cool, thank you. Yavin, I've been thinking about this a lot, actually, maybe last week and even this weekend. And I know you were only selling real estate part-time before and working full-time, and then you sold like dozens and dozens of homes, and you were talking about like the hours working and stuff. So now that you're doing real estate full-time, how much would you say that you're working?
I mean, honestly, like I think this year is kind of like Mike just said, it's changed. It's a lot of changes, and you know, in our city as well. You know, like in our state. I mean, and so far, kind of looks like I will be achieve the same kind of number, even like I'm doing this full time because the market and the buyers and sellers kind of like a little bit, you know, everything's slower, my opinion. So far, kind of like I probably will be achieve. It's the same kind of around like between 50 and 60 properties for this year.
No, I meant like hours, Yavin, like how many hours are you working, like in a day or in a week?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, the hours kind of like still the same, kind of like between 10 to 14,
Hours a day?
6, 7 days. Huh?
10 to 15 hours a day?
10 to 14. Yeah.
All right, thank you, Yavin.
Yeah, because last time, for example, starts working like at 8 and I finished around like 1 a.m. So, and it's kind of course, it was the breaks between, but still kind of, it means, yeah, a lot of things. Because if you remember, I told you like I'm buying also investments, I manage investments. So it's kind of like extra
Got you.
side job. Yeah.
Yevon is juggling a lot of work, right? He's getting amazing results. He's a highly leveraged solo agent. He's doing most of the work himself. And he's closed 54 units last year. And if you picked up, he just said he's going to close 50 to 60 this year. But you have to put in the hours, you know, and that's where a lot of people aren't willing to do it. Yevon is willing to do it. He's worked that out with his spouse and his family and made sure they know what his commitment is to the goals and that they want to achieve. And you got to put in the time. The beauty, I'll try to wrap this up real fast. The beauty of what Yevon is doing is it's so profitable. Okay. So these other models where you have these teams and everything, it's true that you may be able to get back some of your time, but it's going to cost you. Your profit margin is going to shrink. And so what Yevon's decided to do is really maximize his time, like an attorney or a doctor. He's maximizing his productive time, and it's working out in massive profitability that's coming back to him. Okay, and he's putting in
and
a lot of hours.
I also put like big goal. I want to buy like 50 units. So now I'm at 12, so I need more. That's why I'm like working hard, you know, like to achieve this goal.
There you go. Big goals. Very competitive guy. I'll put one final thing out there on that is Yevon's model is buyer based, which we learned the other day, right? The vast majority out of 54 closings last year, if I remember, 52 were buyers, only 2 were sellers. And when you're buyer based, you're going to spend a lot of time in the field. Is that right, Yevon?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. And you can do it, but it's even more time intensive because you're working with the buyers. If you do the same thing with sellers, you're able to leverage the time and gain back a lot of those hours. But you're going to go with the model that works, and that's the model that's working for Yevon right now, and he's capitalizing. By the way, one more idea, and I'm sorry, I'm stretching this out. Yevon, keep going because you're building your seller database. By helping those 52 buyers last year, at some point, those 52 buyers are going to want to sell. And you have now a built-in database for listings for the future. So keep running your model. It's just fine. You're going to be in great shape as the years progress. All right. All right.
Thank you, Mike. Yeah.
Anybody else have any questions? We good? All right. Let's wrap up for today. Again, thank you everybody for being here. Blake, stick around for a second. Everybody, thank you so much for your time and take care.
Have a great day, everyone. Bye.
See ya.